Here we have a £30 laptop with something that you wouldn't expect, a desktop CPU. Let's open it up and see what it's all about. For £30, what laptop can you really buy that isn't falling apart? This unassuming example here possibly holds more interest than meets the eye. Here we have a Novatech N350DW laptop from around 2017 with something quite unique. It features a desktop CPU inside of a laptop chassis. Now, this isn't anything new as it's been done in many other laptop models, but for the price I paid, I think it's quite neat. The listing describes it to have an i5 7400T, 16GB of RAM and plenty of storage, which I'm a big fan of. For parts alone, you're getting way more than 30 quid's worth. The CPU can be sold for as much as what I paid for. The overall condition is pretty good and has a nice soft touch material, which is much preferred to straight up plastic. Gives it a more premium feel similar to a ThinkPad. All of the ports look untampered and opening up the lid reveals a similar picture with nothing overly concerning. A pretty good package at first glance, but let's take a better look to truly understand this quirky laptop. Anyway, here we have the Novatech N350D, I don't even know, but this is a laptop that cost only £30. It has 16GB of RAM, a user upgradable 7th gen Intel CPU. It's quite cool. Let's take a look and see if it turns on. Now, if you've never heard of Novatech, it's essentially a company that's based in the UK that sells electronics, computer parts, laptops, tablets. You get the gist. It's a bit like Micro Center, but yeah, with all of that said, let's turn this thing on and see what it's like. One thing I forgot to mention is this laptop is based off a Clever model, so the components that you see and all the disassembly and everything in the laptop itself is based off a Clever laptop. Alright, let's just plug it in. I did have to buy a replacement power adapter from eBay, which costs essentially the same as this laptop, but we don't talk about that. Okay, the lights are showing up, which is a good sign. I don't know if that's a battery light. I'm pretty sure the battery on this is flat, but hey, we'll take a look at it anyways. Let's open the lid up and see what the laptop is like. Okay, here we have the Novatech laptop. Let's turn it on and try and go into the BIOS. Alright, presume the BIOS key is F2. So at the moment, there's nothing showing up on the screen. Did I even... There you are. Okay, I didn't press it properly. There you are. So there's a Novatech logo. Can I go into the BIOS? I'm clicking F2. So far nothing, and it's just gone straight into Windows. Okay. Huh. Looks like it already has an installation of Windows, and for some reason it says ProBook and it has a HP background. I'm guessing what the seller did is they probably put an old SSD in it that had a HP installation, but yeah, I mean, I guess it works. It was straight into Windows. We will format the drive and just kind of delete everything on it because I don't really trust it, but let's take a look at the specs nonetheless. Let's go into Task Manager. Okay, I kind of wanted to go into the BIOS first, but I guess this laptop has a mind of its own. But anyways, we of course have an i5 7400T with 4 cores and 4 threads, and I'm pretty sure that you can upgrade this to an i7 7800T, 7700T. The T suffix essentially means low power, which is quite good. As for the memory, we have 16GB of DDR3, which is quite old, but honestly, it should work just fine. We have a WD 250GB SSD, and looks like we have a 1TB hard drive. Okay, that's nice. And as for the GPU, we have, of course, Intel HD graphics, nothing special. With all of that said, looks like everything is functional. Is the sound functional? I mean, I guess some of the drivers aren't installed, but let me just take a look anyways. Okay. Yeah, looks like it's working. Let's go into the BIOS and see what the BIOS is saying. Okay, let's just restart the laptop and take a look. And there we have it, and oh my god, that screen is pretty bad. I think we have a TN, which is quite unfortunate, but anyways, let me just zoom in so you can actually see what the hell I'm talking about. But this is the Novatech, what is it called again? The Novatech N350DW. There you go, that's a bit better. You can actually see what's on the flipping screen now. But anyways, we do have the N350DW, which is a Novatech Clever kind of mashup, and we have the i5 7400T, which is a desktop CPU in a laptop. I mean, when was the last time you saw a desktop CPU in a laptop? I've never seen one, so this is a first for me and makes this laptop quite unique. We of course have 16GB of DDR3, the BIOS version is 1.06, and looks like everything is working. So it does recognize the SSD and the hard drive, which is nice that it includes a hard drive. As for advanced, nothing really here. There is no supervisor password, which is nice to see. and looks like everything is standard. So other than that, this laptop is fully functional. So let's turn it around, give it a little disassembly, and see what the Novatek N350DW is all about. Let's take a look. I can confirm the battery is in fact dead, because as soon as I took out the power cable, it kind of just died on me. But here we have the Novatek laptop. Let's just turn it around and take out that battery, because it obviously does not work. So let's just take that out first, so we can actually take out this bottom panel. I do think some of the screws are in fact missing, like this one here, that is missing, but it doesn't really affect the laptop all too much. I mean, there's no easy way of approaching this, but okay. So you have to do that, you have to slide it down and the panel comes right off. So let's just leave that aside, and this is what the Novatek N350 looks like. We of course have the hard drive, the 1TB hard drive, we have the SSD, we have the 2 RAM slots, which I think are 2 8GB sticks, which makes up 16GB. We of course have the Wi-Fi card, and the heatsink. Honestly, quite a compact package. The fact that you can access all of the components just by taking off this bottom panel is honestly quite convenient. Take out this heatsink so we can actually replace the thermal paste, and of course take a look at that CPU. Here is the fan, a little dinky little fella, but honestly it's quite clean. It doesn't look too bad. Let's just leave that aside. We of course have the heatsink. Let's take out the heatsink. Alright, so all I had to do was just lift up this lever, as you normally do in an Intel based system, and it just comes right out. Would you have a look at that? That's quite cool, isn't it? Yeah, this needs a change, but anyways, let's just leave that aside and take a look at that CPU. So this is of course an Intel Core i5-7500T, and yeah, that is definitely a desktop CPU. So if I really wanted to, I could get an LGA 1151 motherboard and plop this right in. It would supposedly work as normal. That's so cool. But yeah, a user replaceable Intel CPU. It's what makes this laptop quite unique, and honestly something that I've not seen on the market thus far. But yeah, all in all, quite a cool package. Let's just put this back in and reassemble the whole lot, and obviously put some new thermal paste. Alright, let's just put the CPU back in nice and carefully. Alright, just align it with the pins. Put down the lever and we should be good to go. Alright, let's just put a little bit of thermal paste, not too much, just a little pea size. Alright, so the heatsink is all nice and clean. Let's just place it back on top of the CPU. Okay, nice and gently screw the first one back in. But honestly, these parts are actually quite clean. I think the seller did give it a good clean before sending it out to me. All of that complete, let's just put the back panel back on and take a look at that CPU. Right, so the Novatek laptop is up and ready. Let's turn it on and see if I broke anything during that disassembly. There's always a chance that I did something wrong. So let's check it out. Let's turn it on. Okay, doesn't look like there's any power going through. There you are. Okay, that scared me a bit. Okay, let's just try and go into the BIOS real quick. Okay, it just went straight into Windows. Alright, so I guess it does in fact work. We don't really need to go back into the BIOS. But what I do want to do now is reinstall Windows, because, I mean, honestly, I don't want to work with an installation of Windows that's already been tampered with. I mean, I don't think that i5-7400T is officially supported by Windows 11, but we'll try anyways and see if it actually installs. Now, if Windows doesn't install, then of course we'll install Linux, which a lot of you guys are probably rejoicing about. So let's take a look and go into the boot menu. Alright, we're into the boot menu. Let's just select the USB so we can hopefully install Windows 11. And of course, you've probably seen this a billion times already, so there's no point of showing you. So let's just skip forward to when we're actually into the new installation of Windows 11, so we can actually do some benchmarks and maybe play some games to hopefully see how this i5-7400T performs. Alright, let's just skip forward to when all of this is completed. Well, it looks like everything is up and operational, which is good to see. I mean, I was kind of fearing that something went wrong during the disassembly, but no, looks like everything is working. So what we're going to do now is just install all of the drivers and applications that we need to actually test out this thing and run a few benchmarks. So with all of that said, let's see how this Novatek N350 laptop actually is in real world tests, and of course see how it performs. Of course, we got to test out the CPU, so here we have Cinebench R23. Let's see how well that i5-7400T actually does. So let's start the test and see what score we get. 1 minute into the test and those fans are already spinning. I mean, you can definitely hear them. They are quite audible, but not unbearable. I mean, the fact that we're working with a desktop CPU means that it's going to be a bit loud, but honestly, I'm not too fussed about it. It's a desktop CPU in a flipping laptop, and the laptop is not even that thick, so it's going to need a bit more to cool it down. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting from a 7th gen Intel CPU, but honestly, I was expecting a lot higher than that. 2,580 points. That's pretty bad. I mean, that's a lot lower than an i7-1165G7, which is a mobile CPU. The fact that we got less than 3000 on a desktop CPU doesn't bode well for this Novatech laptop, but honestly, let's just forget about that and do a few graphical tests to see how those Intel UHD graphics perform. Alright, time for the GPU test. I mean, this doesn't even have a GPU, but you know what I mean. Now, originally I thought this had Intel UHD graphics, but it doesn't even have that. It's Intel HD. So this is going to be quite interesting. Let's see what kind of score we get by the end of this test. So we have it on high quality settings at system resolution. Let's see what score we get. Anyways, here we are into the benchmark and we're currently getting around 13 FPS, which is actually a lot higher than I was expecting. The CPU is at 62 degrees at 28% utilization and it's only using around 18 watts of power. So this CPU is actually pretty power efficient. I mean, it is an i5-7400T. The T is a big indicator that it uses less power and makes sense why they put it in this laptop. The GPU is at 100%. I mean, can you really call it a GPU? It has Intel UHD graphics. No, not even UHD, Intel HD graphics. I keep forgetting that. We're currently getting around 13 FPS at the moment, and the CPU is still around that 60-degree mark, which is pretty good. It's only using around 7.2 gigabytes of RAM, and the fact that this has 16 gigabytes of RAM gives it that more headroom for more intensive tasks like video editing, but I really wouldn't want to do video editing on this because there's no dedicated graphics. But we're currently getting around 20 FPS, which is pretty decent. I mean, that's a lot higher than I was expecting. I mean, I thought this whole thing was going to crash. But yeah, 16 FPS, 17 FPS, still at that 60-degree mark at 32% utilization. I think I've said enough. Let's just wait and see what result we get by the end of this test. And who knows, maybe this £30 laptop might be onto a winner. Look, hear me out. 12 FPS average and only 530 is not good, but that's without any dedicated graphics. So all in all, I think we did pretty well. And the fact we're on high quality settings makes it that much more impressive. Anyways, let's test out Minecraft, cause why the hell not, and see how it does in a bit of gameplay. So here we have Minecraft Java 1.21 running on the Novatech laptop, and we're currently getting around 60 FPS. I did give it a minute to kind of render all of the chunks and everything, and it was a stuttery mess. I mean, it was like 4 FPS for like a minute straight, but now it's not doing too bad. Let me just show you the settings that we're working with. We are working with 12 chunks all around. VSync, let me just turn that off. Full screen on, quality fancy, just the default to be honest, and we're getting around 65, 50, 60 FPS, 82 FPS, and yeah, as you can see, stutters are quite a problem on this laptop. I don't know why that's happening, maybe something to do with the thermals. I mean, it's only at 58 degrees, but yeah, once again, the stutters are pretty bad. I mean, 83 FPS isn't too bad, but this is Minecraft, and Minecraft is a pretty easy run to game, especially on Sodium, and yeah, it's only getting around 87, 81, so it is playable to an extent, but if you want to run shaders or any other kind of mods or whatever, then yeah, probably not the best laptop to play on. So yeah, all in all, let me know what you think down in the comments. Despite the lackluster CPU performance that we saw on Cinebench, the Novatech laptop actually runs pretty smoothly. Now let me just open a few windows to demonstrate, and as you can see, things are opening up quite instantaneously. As you can see, settings opens up pretty quickly, terminal, disk management, system, everything is opening up, like I said, quite quickly, and there's barely any slowdowns to account of, which is quite good. Now this laptop is perfect for those people who just do normal day-to-day tasks like email, web browsing, watching videos, and maybe doing a bit of video editing. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it because there's no dedicated GPU, but I guess you could get by. I guess rendering times would be quite slow, and if you can deal with that, hey, why not? But overall, I'd say this is a pretty good performer for the price I paid. And let me just go into Google Chrome to kind of demonstrate how web pages load. Let me just go into apple.com because I think that's a pretty intensive website to run on this kind of machine. And as you can see, it's opening up straight away and all of the animations are loading up, which is quite good to see. So overall, this is a pretty good performer. I mean, I'm not seeing that many slowdowns and everything is running as expected. I think one area where the laptop does kind of fall short on is the display. So unfortunately, the display is a TN panel, which, as you know, TNs aren't the best in certain situations. Like if you want to look on the side, the viewing angles are kind of atrocious like you saw at the beginning of the video. The colors do look pretty good when you look head on, but when you're in bright light they kind of fade away and kind of just looks like a huge mess. The display is a 1080p panel, 60Hz, 250 nits of brightness and 45% NTSC color gamut, so it's not the worst display out there, but the fact that it is TN does kind of kill it for me. But I guess for the price I paid, I can't really complain. Of course, we can't forget about the speakers, so let's take a listen and see how well they do. I have to say, the speakers on this laptop are genuinely the best thing about it. Like, what on earth is going on? Like, this laptop only costs £30 and they sound like they're from a £2,000-3,000 laptop. And I'm not even exaggerating here. Those speakers are genuinely some of the best I've ever heard on a laptop. Like, I don't know why they put really good speakers on such a laptop, but I guess these laptops were made for like businesses, so I guess they kind of need good speakers. But yeah, what on earth is going on? They have really good bass, enough clarity, they sound really crisp. Overall, a pretty good speaker set. Let me know what you think down in the comments. So what is my take on the Novatech laptop? Now I have to say, for the price we paid, only £30 is genuinely a really good deal. Like, it is crazy the amount of tech that you get for only £30. It has a pretty good screen, not the best, I mean it is TN, but the colours don't look too bad. The speakers are genuinely some of the best speakers I've heard on a laptop. It has a backlit keyboard, I don't think I've mentioned that. And the performance is not the best, but the fact that you can replace the CPU and put in a better one is a big selling point for me. The laptop does feel quite sturdy, so all in all, it's a pretty good package. Anyways, I think I'll leave it here. What do you think about the Novatech laptop? Leave your thoughts down in the comments. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. Continue the support and I'll continue to deliver. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.